Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am here today as promised with another shaker card this week. Today I am making this adorable Polaroid themed card, which is one of my favourite styles to play with. This time it features these adorable drinks and a sentiment by Pretty Pink Posh. I really love how this card turned out and I just love shrinking everything. And these tiny drinks make the cutest custom shaker elements. I can't wait to show you how I made them. So let's get started with all of the materials that I used to make this card. First off, we have the Everyday Greetings stamp set by Pretty Pink Posh and the summer drinks. As soon as I saw these drinks, I knew I wanted to get them for starters because they're adorable, but I also knew that I wanted to eventually turn them into shaker pieces. I'm using my 4-square backdrop by Lawn Fawn to get my Polaroid shape, and I'm using some window sheet or clear acetate for my shaker window today. I'm using a bunch of Distress Oxide inks for my background splatters, just to add some colour to this background. And I'm using a whole bunch of little fruity slices to put in my shaker as well. My Black StazOn ink is getting a workout this week with all these shaker cards, and today I'm using my Sizzix shrink plastic. This is textured on one side and smooth on the other. I cut my 4-square backdrop from some white cardstock and then I removed the cross in the centre. This gives the perfect giant Polaroid look. The sentiment I'm going with today is celebrate, it's your big day. And I figured this could work for a lot of occasions, a lot of celebrations, graduations, or even birthdays. I stamp out one of each of the drinks on some white cardstock. These are the ones I'll be colouring in, and then I'll be stamping these on some shrink plastic soon. With colouring in today, I'm using some Copics and some alcohol markers as always, but I decided I would try to put a little bit more effort into my colouring. I really do try to keep it simple because I don't have a lot of time for crafting, but I recently saw some really cute glasses that my crafty friend Mona had coloured in and they looked real. It was ridiculous how amazing they looked, so I thought I'd put a little bit more effort into these and see how good I can get them looking. Honestly, I'm really happy with how they turned out. I didn't even know that I could colour like this. I guess I just need a bit more time and practice. But I think you'll agree by the end of this colouring that they're probably some of the best things I've ever coloured in. I really focused a lot on using a few more colours than usual and blending a lot and going over the same areas kind of over and over again until I get really smooth transitions between colours. This did make my cardstock a little bit inky and I did have to fix around the edges a little bit where it had bled, but it was really worth the work. Also, when looking at Mona's work, I noticed that with her glasses, she used like a teal colour to kind of outline the edges of it, and I thought that would be really risky, especially with some of the colours of the drinks that I had done, but I gave it a go and it really seemed to work. I then of course also used my white jelly roll pens for highlighting, and especially highlighting over those areas where I had used that teal marker, so it almost hid it. It was a really strange way to do things, but I'm really surprised with how these simple tricks made these look so much better. Anyway, I would love to know what you think of the colouring in this one today. I obviously didn't go into as much detail with the little shrink plastic pieces that I made. All that detail would get lost and it is a bit trickier to colour this way on the plastic. It was a lot of fun mixing up my regular colouring routine. I'll leave you with some music while I finish this off. Along with the glasses, I also stamped one of each piece of fruit, and I thought these would look really cute down with my sentiment to fill in some of that white space. I used some of my Lawn Fawn wood grain cardstock in white, and I'm kind of using this as, I guess, like a tabletop as part of this scene. I didn't want these drinks to be floating. So I'm going to glue these drinks on, and I'm also going to use some really pale grey underneath them just for a tiny bit of shadow to make it look like they're not floating. Once all my drinks are glued down, I'm then going to glue them right behind the window for my Polaroid shaker. And I'm doing this before I put my window sheet down this time. I want these to be on the outside, still in the frame like it's part of the photo, but not inside the frame where it will interfere with my tiny shaker pieces or where the glare is going to affect these images when I take photos of them. And here I am sticking on that clear acetate to create my window. Now on to the shrink plastic pieces, and these are always my favourite. I have so much fun shrinking everything, and these were no exception. These turned out so stinking cute. So here I am stamping them out with my black StazOn ink, and I make sure they're inked up really well, and I only stamp them once. I find with the slipperiness of the shrink plastic, even putting it down with the magnets, I just find that it always shifts just a little bit. And I actually ruined some of the shrink plastic this time because I thought I would be able to stamp again, and it just doesn't agree with me. So here I am colouring them in, and I'm using very similar, if not exactly the same colours that I used on my cardstock, just a little bit of a simpler version. Not quite blending so much. These pieces are going to be so small, and I find blending can kind of work on the shrink plastic. I feel like it might work better with pencils than it would the ink, but I'm just keeping it simple here, mostly because there's a lot to colour in and I didn't want this to take anywhere near as long as my cardstock colouring. Now on to shrinking, and this is just the best bit of these cards. I'm just going to leave you with some music so you can watch all of these shrink down. How satisfying was all of that? I just love how little they look up against the bigger versions. It's amazing how much they shrink down and how much detail they still hold. Now onto the background. So this is going to be inside my window, and I'm just using a bit of all of those Distress ink colours that I showed earlier and sprinkling them over the top. When I use shrink plastic, I do tend to keep my backgrounds white because there's often little bits that are clear, and I don't want I don't want any coloured cardstock behind them so that it interferes with the colours that come through on the plastic, if that makes sense. So just adding little sprinkles of colour really doesn't seem to affect them, but it just fills in that space a little bit so that it's not so plain. I am now using some kids adhesive craft foam that I have trimmed down into strips and sticking it on the back. If I were to make this card again, I would probably maybe double up like I usually do. I only went with one layer today, and some of the pieces do get a little bit stuck. They do move around pretty well, and sometimes I need a decent whack to get them moving again, but they're just so much thicker than, say, sequins, so the more space they have to move around, the better. Here I am adding some fruit slices. I'm using some strawberries, kiwis, and oranges. I then seal all of this up with some PVA glue and let it sit to dry, ignoring all temptation to shake this earlier than when it's dry to give my pieces the best chance of not getting stuck. While I wait for that to dry, I'm adding some of those little fruit slices on the front of the card as well. So here we are the next day, and I am removing some backing to double-sided tape that I have popped on the back of my Polaroid shaker, and I'm going to adhere it to my card base, which I noticed was a little bit too big, so I had to quickly trim that down before I could stick it on. I was just way too eager to see what this looked like and to get shaking, but here we are. This card is now complete. It is so cute. I just love those little drinks. Pretty Pink Posh designs such beautiful things. I have had so much fun using them and turning them into my tiny custom shaker elements. I hope this card has inspired you to do the same, or at least pick your favourite stamp set and make your own little shaker pieces with some shrink plastic. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe. I am still crawling towards 2,000 subscribers and I would love for you to stick with us. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.